Oh, it's tea time.
There you go. Perfect. So, well, it is the sort of space that's certainly going to bring out the coffee, the tea, or some sort of aperitif, and ultimately, it's got a great feel and a great vibe about it, Dominique.
It
So,
does, thanks to you guys, mostly.
brilliant.
Actually.
Well, we're here today. Obviously, we're in Dominique's little piece of paradise over in West London. So it was once a lock-up garage, and now it's been converted into. I mean, what would you even summarise it as? That's a great question to start you off.
Well, I think the whole point is it's not labelled as anything.
Okay.
Because it's what you want to make of it. So originally it was just a place to hang in peace, sort of away from the house. It's not too far from where I live. And it was just like a Zen oasis. It's really quiet, got a fig tree. It was just my space, like my equivalent of a man cave, I guess. And it was also a project to just upcycle. I just wanted to do an upcycle, not use anything new, old stuff. And that's what we did with it, effectively. And so it's kind of a work art studio, maybe an artist studio. I've got a few projects, like creative projects I quite like to do. So you could paint here, you could write here, you could pot your plants here, do some creative thinking, just pretty much anything. It's up to you to what you do with it.
Brilliant. So obviously with that in mind, being such a variety of things that you could do, what have you currently done with the space, and what have you previously used it for before converting it? Was it just here derelict and you bought it, or were you using it as a garage, or what were you doing with the space beforehand?
So I didn't own it. I bought it off the owner, who was a paper, what do you call it, sort of improver or something. So he had lots of old wooden, sort of old antique materials and tools. So it was just a normal garage.
Oh, okay.
And I got it because I didn't want it to be transferred into just another garage, sort of workshop. So I wanted it to be a little special place. So I wasn't using it for anything, but I just saw it as an opportunity. And because it leads straight into that pathway and it's nicely set off, it just has more space than this. So.
Great. And so obviously some people would have got this space and just painted it or done something quite typical, in my opinion, potentially quite boring and uninspiring and uncreative. What was it that led you to think, like, let's get some of these decorative finishes and the signature walls team in to obviously do these components? Because we've got the feature wall there, which is a textured plaster. We've got some different techniques at play. So we've got some stenciling, you've got a little bit of colour washing, some patina in and some aging. We've got the textured Limewash plaster on the rest of the walls, and then obviously we've got this beautiful liquid metal Verderame copper piece up above us with the roof lantern. So what was it that led you down this path instead of just doing your typical, overhaul or freshen up of the space?
Well, I didn't want modern because I was using upcycle old stuff. We were just working on a place in France, which was a Limewash cottage. So we wanted to keep that Limewash. I was really into Limewash, and I didn't want just Limewash paint. I wanted a plasterer who could do that special Limewash. And then when I started thinking, special Limewash, then I started thinking, I want special effects. I want Venetian. And I was talking to someone, and someone said, oh yeah, you could. There are these people who specialize. So you might want to look online and see whether maybe they might do something. And I had this wall here, which I was going to call my signature wall anyway.
Oh, look at that.
And which is like so weird, right? Because
Yeah.
we talk about in my world about your signature strength, what are your signature. So this was my signature wall, and I specifically wanted it to be the art wall.
Right.
So I thought, there you go, Venetian art, this is what we go. And I Googled, and then I saw your site, Peter's site, and I looked through it, and then I fell in love with all of it. And it was just such variety. Got in touch with him. We had a lot of conversations and to and fro with ideas, and that's what actually hooked me, is that he was so open and generous with his thoughts. He helped shape the vision.
Gotcha.
He was coming up with ideas, what about this, what about that? It evolved as it went through, because I was going from novice to better understanding, and he was actually really helpful, because he goes, well, you could do that, and go, oh yeah, that's interesting. So it changed until he came, and then even when he came, I think it changed on the day, and he was as accommodating. He was probably thinking, oh my God, these clients. But it worked out really, really well. And when we were talking, I think it came out of that sort of cut and thrust, and then it came out of with this. Because every time I saw what he could do, I was like, oh yeah, this is great, this is great, this is great. And you think, well, less is more though in this tiny space. So I had to really do violence on myself to pale back and just to have the hint. So it worked. And then he came up with some ideas, came up with some, not mood board, but sample.
Yes.
And showed me some of the stencils. So it was a proper partnering, which I loved all the way through in terms of the creative process. So it started with a Limewash, then it went to that, then it went to that.
Oh, okay.
And that was like mind blowing.
Mind blown open, eh?
So I couldn't have been more happy.
Brilliant. So it'd be fair to say then that the project evolved from what would have typically been just a standalone art piece wall, and then that's transitioned into creating a whole space. So we've looked at the overall design, the overarching theme here, and then seen where your inspiration is, translated it into the creative vision and brought it all to life. So
that's exactly it.
No, perfect.
That's
and
exactly
how important was it for you, Dominique, that you had someone that kind of understood your vision, was able to bring it to life? Because typically, if people were going down this path, they might use an interior designer or an interior stylist to bridge that gap and understand your vision and communicate it to people like us that are doing the actual applicating and the creation of the finishes. I mean, how important was that for you? Because I'm assuming you didn't work with a designer on this project. It was kind of self-designed and self-managed by the sounds of it.
Correct. It was self-designed. And the point you're mentioning is critical. And I don't know if there are very many people like you guys, but the fact that there was that, it was well beyond, tell me what we can do and we can execute. Mm-hmm. Peter was like, oh, let me at it. And you could tell there was that passion for doing something. It wasn't just it's a job, and that's what I loved about it. So if you're a bit creative, that really resonated with me. And then he was like, and how about this? So the fact that he was constantly suggesting, it was a proper artist sort of communication. And for me, that was totally different to interior designers who tend to not listen so much, but just impose.
Right.
And he listened, echoed, gave examples, and then it evolved, it changed. It was a really organic, simple process, and it was a brilliant experience, I have to say. I know it sounds like it's rehearsed, but it's really not. It's bloody brilliant.
Excellent. Well, this is why we do these things. Ultimately, we help you get the end result that you're looking for, which is ultimately a space that you love, you want to spend time in, and ultimately you just love being in. It's got that vibe. It's got amazing. That exact feel that you're looking for, and the aesthetic that matches it. Because for us, it's not just about creating the aesthetic and the visual impact. If the space doesn't feel right, then something hasn't aligned in the creative process. So whether that's a communicative issue or whether it's us interpreting it in the wrong way and bringing it to you in an instance that might not necessarily align. Obviously, art is subjective, as is everything in life. So one person might love it, but somebody else might not. But I absolutely love this space. If you had to summarise it, when you look inside, what are the kind of main phrases, words or descriptive terms that you'd give to the space?
Gosh, that's a tough one. It's a peaceful haven of creativity.
Nice. There you go. So it could well be a peaceful haven of creativity that you get to enjoy as well, because as the journey evolves, so does the space. So there could well be a place in the distant future where you can come and rent it, enjoy it, and give it a taste for yourself. So you can really have a piece of this haven in West London.
Yeah, and I mean, if I were to add anything to that, it's if you've got, because behind these walls, it's just the pink insulating boards.
Gotcha.
So when you've got something that's small, where you can really have fun and make a massive difference, this is it. This is transformational, and it's the painting that does it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. But obviously, we was discussing earlier about how you've been able to dress and style the space overall. And I think one of the key things that stood out to me was the thought process and how you've used reclaimed materials. You're taking a more sustainable approach to the overall design and the kit out of the space. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about that, I'm sure people watching would love to hear a little bit about how you've been able to find some of these pieces of material, the roof lantern, etc.
Well, that was more, I kind of hate waste, and we're such a consumerist society where everything gets thrown away. So I'm really about upcycling, recycling. So a lot of this stuff comes from architectural ironmongers or thrown out after fires, or these reclaimed boards are, were thrown out. The floorboards were old bits of not floorboards, but the floor were bits of stone and porcelain tiles from old bathrooms of ours or old rooms of ours accumulated during the year, and I just wanted to put them all there. So everything really was rescued or old or had sentimental value. These where I grew up with from my parents' house, they're now dead. So it's a mix of everything. And that's why actually when I spoke to Peter and signatures, it was a really important sort of bringing together of all that sort of, because it's all about memories, old, new, mixing the whole thing together. So yeah.
Brilliant. And how was it that you found signature walls in the first place? Was there a particular thing that you were looking for? Did you go on Google? Did you find us through Instagram or through social media?
So that was a Google search, and I was looking for Venetian art.
Okay.
And signature came up, and because it resonated, because I think of I was wanting a signature wall.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
Oh, that's a strange coincidence. And then I spoke to Peter, and from the get-go, he was approachable, he understood, he came really quickly, and he just got it.
Yeah.
He just got it, and I got him, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be a good partnership.
Perfect.
And the team that came with as well, similar. They're really into their craft.
Yes.
So yeah, it was a fantastic experience. For me, it was a great find.
Excellent. Okay, cool. And obviously for people that are watching that might be thinking of doing something similar in their own way and in their own interpretation, have you got any words of advice, encouragement, or things that you might suggest to them?
Go ahead and do it. So if you want to, but you don't know how to, and you're not sure about your vision and you're sort of lost in your head, having someone like these people to sort of sense check or bounce ideas unlocks a lot of stuff. And so if you're slightly stuck, but you think, I want to do, it just opens up a whole new realm of possibilities. So I would just go, trust your instinct, trust your good star, and just make a call to, and it doesn't have to be you, it could be whatever. But I didn't bother calling anybody else because it was going to be a process.
Yep.
That's it, done. Yeah. For me, anyway.
Cool. Excellent. Well, I mean, I think realistically that's all I've got for today. And I really appreciate your time, Dominique. Is there any last thoughts, ideas, or anything else that you might want to contribute?
No, I think, in this world as it is at the moment, refuge is in stuff like this, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So I'm very glad I found you guys.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much for your time
It's
today.
a pleasure.
I appreciate you jumping on camera with me.
It's a pleasure.
Brilliant. Nice one.